I probably had taught a lot of people about preferences for matchmaking, but a lot of people actually don't get what it is. When you want to buy a car, you want to buy a gadget, it's kind of like awkward when I had to use a device or a machine to give out this illustration, but then it's going to really help us out a little bit, just like the previous video I had about the device and human process. When you want to buy a car, there are some specifications you look into. The specs are the reason as to why you're gonna say, I love the Benz S-Class, I love the Range Rover, I love the Bentley, I love the Maybach. These whole cars has their own specification, right? That is how we humans are. Every human has their own spec. Which is why you go and find somebody being an introvert and the other person is an extrovert. Being an introvert is part of the specifications. And talking about preferences for matchmaking, there's something that you really need to know. People require a process. And for that reason, you don't expect to change a person in one day. Or you don't either need to change a person in one click. Which is why you need to look about your preference for matchmaking, your specifications, because when you have your specs, there isn't no much of modification that you'll be doing. But when you buy a car that don't have the specifications you need, what you're going to do is you want to modify the car. The car don't have an inbuilt camera, you want to put an inbuilt camera. The car don't have the front rear camera, you want to install that. That is what happens when you go for something that is not your spec, but you have to build it to become your spec. That is when a lot of people actually going to be doing a whole lot of jobs, trying to make somebody become who they want the person to be. I discuss about that all the time. So preferences for matchmaking is a key paramount tool that could help you, specify the kind of people you should associate yourself with. And when I speak about preference for matchmaking, it doesn't actually need to be in the relationship part only. It also settles in the abode of friendship too, because you really need to know the kind of people you bring into your life, because before there's a relationship, there's a friendship bond. You understand? But people actually skip the friendship bond for relationship. That's most often time when relationship goes by, they don't have time to talk to each other because the bond of friendship isn't there to modify them, to caution them, to keep them on check. So we just met, we started dating. You understand what I mean? We didn't have an history of friendship. So it is going to be very difficult for us to understand ourselves. But when there's a bond of friendship and there's a bond of relationship, that's when people can actually see there'll be a bond of marriage, that we can tolerate each other properly. Now, being about the specification, if myself, I want to date somebody right now, or I want to bring up somebody into my life as a friend, not just a coach, not just an acquaintance, as a real friend, I really need to know if they suit me. First of all, I might go with the opinion like my specification. One of my specifications is you being intellectual, because obviously I've seen where two intellectual people have an argument and when two uneducated people have an argument. So I wouldn't do that. And if I tell you that I want to be in a relationship that it's not about body goals. Body goals isn't the key point for me. Yes, as much as I want my woman to look very attractive, very beautiful and all that, it's not about the body goals, but it has to begin with the intellect. It has to begin with the vision. She has to be a clean woman. She has to be a woman who can think. You understand? So these are most of my specifications I'll probably give you if that becomes a reason as to why I won't be in a relationship. But to you think that I'm looking for a perfect being. There isn't no shit like perfect being, because there are probably women out there who are independent, who are educated, who are intellectual, who are go-getters, who has the vision, and who are clean, who got attitude. When I speak about the attitude, like the rich attitude, because the rich attitude is what exempts you from just every other kind of attitude. Those women are out there. So I'll be like, if I don't get my kind of specification in a woman, I'd rather be single. Yes, you might say I'm looking for a perfect life, but then I'd rather make sure somebody has 80% or 85% of my specifications. That way, I know that I don't need a lot of modification to be done. I don't need to teach her what a fallacy is. I don't need to teach her what it means that a sentence is lucid. I don't need to teach her what black and white is about. I don't need to teach her what her left and right is from. There won't be those such kind of modification. I don't need to teach her how to keep my house clean. I don't need to teach her what being an OCD or what being an OPCD is. That is because I have a woman who has fit in 85% of my specification, leaving 15% out that makes her not a perfect being. You don't expect me to go date a dirty woman because all in the name of feelings. No, feelings is not just the thing. Like, we're going to be talking about love, but we forget the fact that love don't pay the bills. Love is an emotional thing. Love is what we feel, and bills are what we need to pay. Food is what we need to buy. Clothes is what we need to purchase. We can't say because we're loving each other, then we become the blind man who is probably leading another blind man. They probably don't have a destination. If your partner is not doing quite better financially, you should be stable financially. That's the only way you guys can move each other probably. But then you be in a thing where the nigga is down, you are also down, man. Damn, y'all niggas ain't going nowhere. There isn't no shit like the proper song I used to hear from the Afrobeat that says, if I don't love you today, you love me tomorrow, I'll get one thing tomorrow, I'll make it tomorrow. Nah, it works for some people, not everybody. Because people have their specification. A lot of people want a ready-made dress. A lot of people want to take a dress to a designer or a fashion house for them to clone a dress the way they want. You need a specification in people. The same way you need it in gadgets. The difference between iPhone 14 and iPhone 13, when you go to the specifications, you're going to see that there were some modifications that was made, but the changes are not really that big. The margin line is not big, but there were modifications. The modifications to tell you that this is the difference why it is iPhone 14, and this is the difference why this is iPhone 13, because iPhone 14 camera looks a little bit more clearer than iPhone 13. There is a modification, but there isn't not much job to be done indeed. That is what it feels like. So a lot of people get scared of being committed, not because of commitment itself. Like, for one, a lot of people assume like, I'm committed. I'm scared. I'm having a phobia of being committed. No, I'm not scared about commitment. Commitment is a word. I'm not scared about commitment. I'm only scared about, or rather, I'm having problems with what I will be committing myself to. You understand? Because I could want to commit myself right now to my vision, to my success story, to my progress. That is what I want. And hence, my commitment is in there. Another thing cannot take me out. First of all, you need to know what people are committed to before you start being committed. I want to be successful. That's where my commission is. I want to be committed to being successful. I don't want no distraction. I don't want no one to push me away from my focus. I won't give you time for your emotions, not until I achieve what I'm committed to. So before you think that I could be having that phobia of being committed to a relationship, no, I can't be scared of being committed to a relationship, but then I could be having problems that I'm committing myself to somebody who do not even bestow 85% of my specifications, which are my preferences for matchmaking. For me, preferences for matchmaking is a paramount tool, because you need to fit in there. I need to make sure that you're somebody I can talk to. That's the only reason why when we have problems, you and I can sit, we can dialogue it over, we can talk it over. I tell people the reason for war is because there's no dialogue. The reason for a long break of relationship is because there's no dialogue, and you cannot have a dialogue without you being on a table with somebody, or without you having a one-on-one conversation with that person to resolve issues. So what are these specifications? What are your specifications? What are your preferences for matchmaking? Because not until you begin to identify that in a relationship or whatever you do or whatever friendship you do, you need to have your preferences, and then you need to have your specifications. Even when it's friendship, there are people I need to bring in my life. I don't need to bring in every Tom, Dick, and Harry into my life. And if I cannot bring everybody into my life, it means that I have a preference. It means I have a specification. You cannot just want to jump out from one relationship to the other, and then you expect not to make the same mistakes. And then at the end of the day, I see people be like most often times I tell people, could you just look back at your exes and just imagine what you were doing with them? You know, you need to know that there's specifications. Like, even if I had to look back at my ex, I'd be like, yeah, she was a great woman. She was an independent woman. She was smart. She was a woman who pushed me from point A to point B. I still owe her that respect. I still owe her that gratitude. And I still owe her that privilege that anytime she wants to see me, I could meet her up and talk to her, because I see that she's a woman who has not just got sight, but she's got vision. But most oftentimes, people complain, or people rather nag or be in pain of the fact that, oh, what the fuck was I doing with him? He wasn't even cute the way I want. He was not even clean. He was not even outspoken. He was not even intelligent. He was not even rich. Then what the fuck were you doing there? That's because you didn't have specifications. And the only way you feel like you cannot be committed to somebody is because you feel like they don't match your preferences. Because there is no way you're going to have a man that your heart is well pleased with, that has 90% of your preferences, that you tell me that you are tired of his presence, like you're bored of his calls, that you don't want to meet him. No, you want to be with him all the time, because he's a man that speaks of what you want. So I don't get it. When people ought to be in a relationship, or they want to build a circle of friendship with that specification, it become a real job to do, because you're going to be doing a whole lot of modifications. And most oftentimes, in the process of modifying, you end up even killing it all completely. So if we being were to be like the device, the phone, if I am at the phone 13, I think I need to be dealing with somebody who has a specification of iPhone 14. That way the person can enhance my life. That way the person can push me from point A to point B. That way, even when they walk out of my life, they don't leave me in a local bus, but they leave me in a Bentley. Because they were far better off than me. But what happens to you when you are operating on a specification of iPhone 13 and then you are going to deal with iPhone 5S? You're going to have a problem, because the camera isn't going to be too clear. You can't even take a zoom out pictures. You can even see some functions in 13 in iPhone 5S. You cannot even upgrade the OS to 16.3. Then what happened? When that iPhone 5S finally hurt you, you'll be like, what the heck was I doing? I was 13. I was supposed to roll up with 13 Plus or 13 Pro, or I should be doing 14 or 14 Plus. Now, these are my specifications when we classify ourselves in the form of a gadget. You buy a cheap car, but you want it to have a camera. You buy a cheap car, you want it to have that big ring. You buy a cheap car, you want that inside camera, you want the TV inside. You're going to spend a lot doing that modification. And at the end of the day, you might be disappointed after modifying that car. Then what becomes the case? Cheap becomes expensive. So my candid advice is, whatever time you want to have to call somebody a friend or to want to be in a thing, make sure that your specifications are on the table. You can probably associate with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but you cannot call every Tom, Dick, and Harry your friend. You cannot want to give out your heart to just every random man. So anytime you keep complaining about heartbreaks, you should also look about yourself to see if that man is truly your kind of man. Because when you know your specifications, one of the best things your specifications do to you is it doesn't make you feel lonely. It doesn't make you feel like you're out of place. It doesn't make you feel like you're wasting time. Because when you have a preference for matchmaking, even if it takes you 5 years to be in a relationship, it's not going to be a problem. Rather, it's going to help you focus on your career, focus on your vision, focus on the progress of your success. Because you only say, not until I find a man with these specifications, that is when I will start being in a thing. But not until then, I'm not going to be in anything. I see people being cajoled by the peer pressure. Oh, my friends, they all have babies. My friends, they all have relationships. My friends are all in a thing. But the question is this: did you take the time to look at that relationship and tell yourself the truth if that's the kind of relationship you would want to keep for yourself? You're so worried that your friends all have kids. But did you look at your friends' children to think about if they even go to better schools, to think if they could wear good attires, if they could fit 3 square meters in a day proper, before you want to start doing yours? You need to create a preference for matchmaking. And this preference should reflect in these 3 areas: friendship, relationship, and marriage. But then If you still don't get what I'm talking about right now, you just go and forget about it.